Obviously, this issue of health and well-being are absolutely massive right now. And so I wanted to talk about 4 ways to improve your own personal well-being. Now, I am a child of the 80s. I was born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s, but I have to admit, I never fully embraced the 80s music. There was too much hairspray and synthesizer for me. But for all of the studded leather jackets and the poorly designed Buicks of the 80s, the famed duo Hall and Oates, they did have a song title that still resonates. Everywhere I Look. They decried, everywhere I look, I see people waking up, so why are we still sleeping? Everywhere I look, I see people shaking off the old ways, so why can't we follow through? A modern version of that 80s rock dynamic might declare, by the way, I think the song was actually released in 1990, to be clear, but it might declare this if it was a modern day lyric. Everywhere I look, I see wealth and stuff, so why are we so anxious and unnerved? In the West, we equate material wealth with personal success. I heard a statement last week that really stunned me. I was at a conference, and the person presenting said this: success is a sickness that is slowly killing us. Success is a sickness that is slowly killing us. Is that true? Could it be that success, or at least our response to success, has a part to play as a catalyst for the significant decrease in human well-being, or at least what we think is a decrease in human well-being? Well, regardless, we have solid evidence and reason to believe that the well-being of our souls, our minds, our bodies, and our spirits are teetering on the cliff of discontent and isolation. Now you might think, well, Scott, what does this have to do with us? Yeah, this is business. We keep business separate from life. Do we really? Well, I want to show you there's been increased attention lately from companies like Shoreline Construction, big behemoths like Nike, Bumble, Hootsuite, and LinkedIn, just to name a few. And what they're doing is they're starting to provide an extra week off for their employees. A senior leader within Nike explains their suggestion to take the time to unwind, de-stress, and spend time with your loved ones. This is an interesting final statement of this, by the way. Do not work. Now, this could be misconstrued as another line item in a long list of employee benefits companies are hoping will provide a reason for talented leaders to remain long-term. But I believe this is more than a corporate benefit strategy. This is a real recognition that what we have been through and are going through is a unique, peculiar, and something worth acknowledging. The reality is everything's shifting. Just last week, I was attending a conference where leaders from a variety of faith and commercial backgrounds, really unique mix of people, were brought into attendance. And during a general session, a researcher began explaining the seismic shift up ahead for faith communities, churches, synagogues, mosques, etc., but the gathering of religious people. And even the religious leaders, those most thought to be sort of stuck in a rut, are being presented with significant changes that culture is about to impose on their outward manifestations. Minus the hairspray and the synthesizer, we're about to find ourselves echoing the lyrics of John Hall and Daryl Oates. Everywhere I look, I see people waking up, so why are we still sleeping? Sleep is healthy in moderation. The question, though, is what do we do with the time we're awake? Well, there's 4 disciplines that we can embed into our day-to-day that will provide us each with good, rich soil for human well-being. And I want to walk through those 4. First, practicing the simple and hard art of thinking. Practicing the simple and hard art of thinking. Meditation, that's a common word used when discussing this personal discipline, but I don't want your mind to immediately cliche this idea with some sort of trance-like oming exercise that most of us think of. Those are good, but I don't want your mind to go there. Part of the challenge of human well-being is that our minds are cluttered, they're confused, they're foggy. Just yesterday, Ashley, my wife, and I took our cars to the car wash. We drove in feeling sort of loud and cluttered because our cars were loud and cluttered. After a wash and a lot of time cleaning out and vacuuming, we left feeling just a touch more peace-filled and orderly, just because everything had been cleaned up. Making time, by the way, don't miss that. Making time to think deeply provides you with opportunities to begin decluttering, organizing, and culling all of the thoughts, impulses, and invitation your mind has received. All that's just sitting there, piled up on the desk of your head. And so making time to think also allows for the space to replace negative, unhelpful, and degrading lies with uplifting and progressive truths that will literally renew your mind, providing that same sense of peace and orderliness and clear-headedness that you know you want. There are many of you right now that you're fighting lies, things that are coming to your head, even that people have told you, and you realize that's not the truth. Making time to think allows you to replace those lies with truth statements. Merely thinking is highly valuable and is a step that most of us do not intentionally take, leaving us wondering why we remain so cluttered. I literally schedule time to think in my weekly schedule, and then I follow the schedule we have to implement. The second discipline, the first being thinking, the second to encourage our well-being is reading and writing. Don't leave yet. Stay with me. We now have no excuse to not read and write. Audiobooks are pervasive, and books have never been more accessible. Imagine if I asked you this. Hey, would you spend $20 to spend 6 hours with Peter Drucker, with Abraham Lincoln, with Maya Angelou, with some of these greats, right, that have written books? Would you spend $20 to spend 6 hours or 8 hours or 10 hours with? Of course you would. Of course we would do that. Well, that's what books allow us to do. We obsess about getting to meet famous people in person. Why? Honestly, so that we can tell our friends we met them. But what's more powerful than actually spending 2 minutes or 2 seconds with somebody famous is to learn from the people we hold in high regard. Meeting them will last for a minute or two, but learning from them will last for a lifetime and will continue to return. If I had to pick one discipline in all of human existence that I would want for everyone around the world to learn and implement, reading. As you read, it's most helpful also to write. I've heard it said before that if you don't write it down, you don't own it. And I believe that. For the last couple of years, I've been writing a sentence a day, for most days, not all, but a sentence a day in a journal that's titled A Sentence a Day. That's the title of the journal. Even just a sentence a day of what you've seen, what you've heard, or what you read will be a powerful display of all that is being invested inside of you, and it leads to a life of well-being. The third discipline is to have a sense of well-being is to try to sweat multiple times per week. That's right, like sweat physically, sweat, weights, running, wrestling, kickboxing, infrared hot yoga, dry tries, biking, or just good old-fashioned power walking. Whatever you've got to do, and more importantly, whatever you enjoy, go do it multiple times a week and sweat while doing it. Get out of your chair. Stop staring at the screen. In the same way that books are now pervasive, fitness is equally pervasive. You can sweat just about anywhere and for any reason, and you can call it fitness. My personal goal is to sweat for at least 30 minutes a day, 4 to 5 days a week. That totally takes the pressure off from feeling like I've got to follow the perfect routine. I get to hit the right number of pull-ups or push-ups or I don't even like those things. Instead, I can just sweat and enjoy. So for me, I like to jog, ride a bike, and also walk. Those are my big 3 things that help me sweat. A final helpful discipline to promote your personal well-being is to practice periodic restraint. What in the heck do I mean by that? Well, what are those things that you love and have been relegated to autopilot in your day-to-day life? Yeah, scrolling social media, that quick stop in for an energy drink and a donut midday. What about coming home and turning on the numbing entertainment of that same show every day? Well, what if you mixed it up once a week and did something else? What if you practiced periodic restraint and restrained yourself from that familiar creature comfort just one time a week and did something different during that time? When we restrain from the comfortable, it pushes us to new places and new things, allowing our eyes to see things we would otherwise not see, allowing our ears to hear things we would otherwise not hear, and allowing our souls to begin understanding new things that can provide a unique peace and orderliness. So let's write a new lyric. How about this one? Everywhere I look, I see well-being and flourishing. That's a better Hall and Oates song. We can then begin to intentionally practice those things that lead to our well-being and flourishing, those 4 disciplines that we talked about, so that we understand what it's like to sit and to spend time thinking, to read and write, to sweat a little bit, and then to practice periodic restraint. When we do that, we position ourselves for a better shot at human well-being.